All right. Hello out there. Hello, and welcome to this edition of Studio Sessions Audio Scripting 101 from Spotify Advertising. Um, before we begin, I should introduce myself. My name is Tyler Sorensen. I am a senior producer here at Spotify, and I've written and produced hundreds of audio ads over the years, spanning retail, auto, and tech, and so many others. So it is my sincere thrill to share my knowledge with you here today. A little note for the back room here. I seem to have some trouble controlling the slides of this presentation, but that's okay. I can just go into my housekeeping note, which is I want to note that everyone watching and listening right now, you will not be visible during today's session. You can see me, but I can't see you. That's okay. However, we do encourage your interaction. So if you have any questions throughout this presentation, please feel free to submit those questions as I'm speaking through the Q&A window. After this presentation, I will be joined by two of my colleagues, Lindsay and Aaron, two associate directors from Spotify's Creative Studio team. And together we will answer as many of your questions as we can. I'd like to talk about today's playlist, what we are going to talk about today. Right now, I will walk you through what I'm calling the 5 key ingredients for writing a great audio ad, so that hopefully by the end of today's webinar, you will have the tools you need to script audio ads that are both compelling and impactful on Spotify Ad Studio. We'll see if we can give me control of the slides here, but I'll just keep on going and tell you about Spotify Ad Studio, since we're on the subject. So let's start by setting the scene a little bit, guys. Audio has played an important, timeless role in our lives. We've tuned in to hear our favorite songs. We've sought news from our favorite journalists. Now the world's digital audio catalog is at our fingertips. You know, listenership is at an all-time high. We are seeing people spend 15 hours a week listening to audio online, and more than 71% of the US digital population is streaming audio content each month. In the UK, people are listening to audio online for over 12 hours per week, and 66% of the UK online population streams audio each month. And these folks are listening to audio during key moments of their days. You know, they're boosting their morale, their moods. It's helping them concentrate. They're enjoying family time. These are all moments where traditional digital media cannot reach them, but audio, digital audio in particular, can. So at the center of all of this is Spotify. Spotify is the world's most popular audio platform. No other audio streaming service can match Spotify's global reach, highly engaged audience, exclusive best-in-class content, and our industry-leading ad technology. We have 456 million monthly active users, 273 million ad-supported monthly active users in 183 markets. Because our listeners use Spotify to soundtrack their daily lives across a variety of content, contexts, and devices, we think we are uniquely positioned to help brands connect with the digital generation. So, businesses and agencies of all sizes can harness the power of Spotify with our easy-to-use advertising tool. We call this tool Ad Studio. Ad Studio allows you to create and run audio and video campaigns directly on Spotify. So, as a self-serve ads platform, Ad Studio allows you to book audio and video campaigns directly on Spotify with flexible budgets. With powerful targeting options, multi-format solutions, and free creative tools, Ad Studio is easy to use and efficient for any budget. Our real-time reporting dashboard helps you stay in control and optimize your campaigns at any point as well. Also, at Spotify, we routinely run webinars for our self-serve advertisers about how to use Ad Studio. So if you would like to see a detailed walkthrough of how to use Ad Studio, you can check out our previous studio sessions webinars on demand, or you can visit ads.spotify.com for detailed guidance. But today we want to talk to you in particular about the key ingredients of a great audio ad. And I will be the one doing that right now. So we've covered Spotify Ad Studio. Let's talk about what it takes to write a great audio ad. In my opinion, the best audio ads, they almost sound improvised because they're so conversational. But if you sit down to actually write an audio ad script, you will realize very quickly that they are anything but improvised. In fact, there is a formula to an audio ad script, or perhaps more accurately, there is a recipe, because I have broken out each element, each ingredient, if you will, of an audio ad script into 5 distinct parts. And when you sandwich these 5 parts, these 5 ingredients, one on top of the other, you end up with what I'm calling an audio ad burger. This is what you see in front of you right now. So that no matter what you're promoting, if you follow this recipe, you can fill that blank page with a script that is effective and audio friendly. Let's start top to bottom, beginning with the very first ingredient, the crown. That is the bun that sits at the top of our ad burger. This is the branded introduction. So within the first 5 seconds of any audio ad, you should introduce the advertiser by name. You might be tempted to start with a rhetorical question, perhaps a skit, but generally speaking, tactics like these hold you back in 2 ways. Number 1, they eat up your runtime, which is usually very short. Number 2, they demand the listener's patience, and they postpone the listener from knowing who you are, and you want to tell them who you are as quickly as possible. In my opinion, writing for audio is all about maximizing your runtime by being clear and concise. One tip I will come back to over and over again is the very first bullet on the slide. This is the thing that distinguishes the spoken word from the written word. It's this: end your sentences with the most important word. End your sentences with the most important word. That way, the last thing listeners hear is what you want them to remember most. You want that last word to linger in the listener's mind. This means that the very first line of your audio ad should end with the name of the advertiser. So if you're writing an ad that can run across music and podcasts, I recommend inviting your audience to try your product or service in a single line, ending once again with the name of the advertiser. Think of this as an early or a soft call to action. For example, don't write "shop at brand X" for all your last minute gifts. That might work well for the page or web copy, but for audio, you want to reverse that. You want to say, for all your last minute gifts, shop at brand X. So brand X is the last thing they hear and top of mind for the listener. As an aside, I will say, if you're writing an ad that is exclusive to Spotify, you can even add a greeting, something casual like, "Hey, Spotify listeners," just to differentiate those ads from your traditional terrestrial radio spots. So on the right-hand side, I'll be outlining an example script using a fake brand I've made up, a productivity app I'm calling ClickFi, which sounds kind of plausible, right, for a tech company. So I have here the very first line: manage your business in one place with ClickFi. It's clear, it's direct, and it ends with the name of the advertiser. The next ingredient in our ad burger are the tomatoes. You'll notice these tomatoes, for whatever reason, are colored green. And you might be asking yourself, shouldn't they be red tomatoes on a burger? Like, are they underripe? To which I say, please refer to our Q&A window for all those tomato related questions, because in fact, the tomatoes represent the second line of your audio ad script, the branded definition. So in the first line, you said who you are. Now it's time to say, what do you do? Think of the second line of your script, your audio ad script, as the answer to the question, what do you do? When I came on mic today, I said something like, "Hi, I'm Tyler. I'm a producer at Spotify." The first sentence, "Hi, I'm Tyler," is my introduction. The second sentence, "I'm a producer at Spotify," is me defining myself. You want to do the same thing for your brand. Define yourself in a single sentence. To do that, fill in the blank. brand X is dot, dot, dot. You could say brand X is a global leader in IT, or brand X is an award-winning auto insurance company. Whatever it is for you, fill in that blank. Brand X is, or as an alternative, you can use an active verb, something like brand X offers, brand X helps, connects, makes. What you don't want to do is you don't want to use superlatives. You don't want to use words or phrases like the best or the greatest. You want to avoid jargon and overly long multi-syllable phrases and instead focus on just clear and simple facts and write the way real people actually talk, because a real person will end up voicing your script. For example, don't use words like utilize when you can just say use. Save on your syllable count and just be clear and direct and talk the way people actually talk, outside of your company. Don't say advanced suite of proprietary technologies, which might be impressive, but save time and be clear and just say tools or features. You want to define your business in as few words as possible and make every word count. So in the example on the right-hand side, I define this imaginary brand as follows. Clickify is a cloud-based productivity platform. So we have introduced the brand in the very first sentence, then we define them in the following sentence. All right, after the tomatoes in our ad burger, we have the lettuce, the third ingredient. It's also colored green. That's the way I prefer my lettuce. So that's what I like. But this is representing the takeaways. You want to identify 3 key takeaways you want listeners to remember about your product or service. These could be 3 benefits, 3 features, or simply 3 key points. Think of 3 key points and then have these 3 key points escalate in importance. This follows the first tip, where you end your sentences with the most important word. What is the most important takeaway you want your listeners to remember? Also, know that you are writing not for eyes, but for ears. The only person reading your script will be the voiceover artist who reads it in the end. So it's not as important that your script be grammatically flawless on the page. It's actually much more important that your script can be easily understood by ear alone. When we're writing audio ad scripts, we often use 3-item lists. And there's a reason for that. The reason is it's super easy to understand by ear alone. If I could templatize this for you, the format that we've done so far is something like, this is brand X, first line. Brand X is a product, second line. Third line is a product that lets you do X, Y, and Z. This is the pattern we follow in our example on the right-hand side. We have defined the brand. Clickify is a cloud-based productivity platform. Then we list 3 key takeaways we want listeners to remember. We say, a platform that helps you oversee your projects, teams, and inventory. So when you're writing for audio, consider 1-line paragraphs, 2-word sentences, even sentence fragments. Because again, you're writing to be understood, not read. If you'll notice the last sentence in our script as is, it's a fragment. It's not a complete thought, but that doesn't really matter because we know that when we read this out loud, it will be understood. Now we come to the meat of our burger metaphor. This is the patty itself. In this diagram, you'll notice this particular patty is also colored the same green as the tomatoes and lettuce. And you might be asking yourself, is this patty spoiled? And the answer is no, it's plant-based. The meat of any audio ad, though, is really in the details. So in the previous section, we listed 3 key takeaways, and we ended with the most important takeaway. In this case, inventory. Projects, teams, and inventory is what we decided was the most important for this particular script. That was intentional because now we will expand on that most important takeaway in 2 to 4 sentences. This is the meat of your script. And in a 30-second script, the meat should not be any longer than 10 seconds. We're talking 2 to 4 lines, not very long at all. So in the example on the right, you can see how we lead up to the details in the takeaways. We say, once again, helps you oversee your projects, teams, and inventory. From there, we expand on the inventory piece in greater detail. We say, with ClickFi, if you sell out of coffee mugs in your warehouse, your website will know this automatically, and so will your team. That's because ClickFi uses real-time data. That's it. That is the meat of our 30-second script, focusing on that inventory component for this brand, this fake company in particular. You should resist the temptation to over-explain. I would recommend breaking up any paragraphs that exceed 2 to 3 lines. And crucially, I would say to everyone to read your script out loud, because that is how people will hear it. And as you're reading your script out loud, ask yourself 3 questions. The first of which is, do these words sound natural? Could I hear someone else outside of my company, outside of my business, using these words in real life? You don't want to use inside jargon. Ask yourself, are there moments to breathe? If you have to take a breath in the middle of a sentence or a paragraph, that is a good indication that your sentences have been too long, and you should chop them up and make them much shorter. Finally, time yourself against the runtime. If your script is 30 seconds, people often underestimate just how few words will fill up 30 seconds. It's not many words at all. I would say a sparsely written script read at a comfortable pace will be much easier to follow than a script that is jam-packed and requires the voiceover to rush through it all anyway. And at that point, it just washes over the listener. It's hard to digest. Finally, avoid using personal pronouns like I or me. That is because you want to define your brand. It's not about you, it's about the brand. Also, if you are, perhaps cutting into a podcast as an ad, you don't want to confuse the listener and clash with the editorial content of the show by having this anonymous, unintroduced person who is just speaking and no one knows in the audience why they're speaking to them. So avoid personal pronouns if you can. And finally, folks, we have come to the 5th ingredient, the bottom half of our bun here. This bun is also green, and that is because this extended metaphor is past its expiration date, but it's the call to action. In the last 5 seconds of your ad, you should have a call to action. CTAs are crucial for driving responses. What do you want your listener to do after they hear your ad? Language we often use in our own scripts are things like learn more or shop now, apply today. When in doubt, direct listeners online. In contrast to CTAs that drive offline action, like visit us in store, online CTAs, that is CTAs that direct people to websites, increase consumer intent by nearly 100%. In other words, online CTAs nearly double consumer intent compared to offline CTAs, and that is according to Spotify's own internal research. A common technique in online CTAs is to use promo codes and vanity URLs, and these are used often to track the success of a campaign. In the scripting stage, the most important thing you can do is keep these CTAs, these promo codes and these URLs, keep them as short and as simple as possible. Spell out words that may be difficult to discern by ear, like URLs and codes. If you include numbers, spell them out so the listener knows what to type. If I say to you, for 10% off, go to, use promo code Spotify 10. Well, do I mean Spotify 10 or do I mean Spotify TEN? You want to specify that in your script. The same thing goes for vanity URLs. Make sure they are audio friendly. Avoid dashes, numbers, and multiple slashes because they become harder to follow the longer the URL is. If I said to learn more, go to spotify.com/call-to-action/123, it just becomes too much to recall by ear alone. So keep it short and simple. In our example here, we spell out the name of our fake company, and that is because we are introducing an entirely new brand to listeners. So in our CTA, we say, try it today. For your first month free, go to clickfi.com/Spotify. We end our CTA with the most important thing, and that is the URL where we want people to go. You don't say, go to clickfi.com/Spotify to learn more. Reverse that. So the very last thing in your ad is what you want listeners to do. And in this case, we want them to go to this URL. All right, so here is our completed script. You can see each line, each paragraph corresponds to an ingredient in our ad burger. We have the opening line, which introduces the brand. We define them in the subsequent line. We have 3 key takeaways in the third paragraph, ending with the one we want to focus on in the details, where we spend 2 to 4 sentences explaining that component of what we want to promote. And finally, we end with a strong call to action where the last thing the listener hears is the URL where we want them to go. So what we have just done, folks, is we have gone through the ingredients of a strong audio ad, but I want to mention that we are also here to provide additional support for self-serve advertisers who aren't, necessarily in a position to record and mix their own audio ads. So if you are an advertiser who is interested in audio, but you don't have your own asset to publish, we can produce the ad for you at no additional cost. We will record the voiceover, add music, the whole thing. So with Ad Studio, you can either upload your own asset if you have one, or if you need support, you can simply write a script, just remember the guidelines, the burger we outlined here today, pick a music track, and then voila, in 24 to 48 hours, you will receive a recorded voiceover. And that's at no additional cost through Ad Studio. I want to mention that and underline that fact for you today too. And with that said, I think it is finally time for our Q&A segment. Right now, I will invite my colleagues, 2 associate directors from Spotify's Creative Studio, Lindsay and Aaron, to join me on the virtual stage. And as they're coming on here, I want to mention that we want to answer as many questions of yours as we can, but we want to focus on creative best practices. So if you have any technical questions about Ad Studio, we have folks in the chat who can respond to you directly. Aaron, I see you're on here. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hello everybody. My name's Aaron, and the tomato part of your burger, Tyler, is that I am the Associate Director for International Production here at Spotify. So I work in the Creative Studio team and sit here in the UK. I'll hand it over to Lindsay.
Hi, everybody. My name is Lindsay, and there we go. Sorry. I sit over in Los Angeles, so the Creative Studio spans the globe, which is really exciting. And I am also an associate director on the team, and I manage the North American group.
Thank you so much. I'm going to take a crack at these first few questions here. The first of which comes from Gonzalo, who asks, who is doing the voiceover in Ad Studio? Aaron, you want to take that one?
Yes, I will. Good question. So we work with lots of professional voiceovers, voice actors to record your scripts. And Ad Studio's free voiceover tool allows you to create audio ads from scratch in just a couple of minutes. For music ads specifically, all you guys need to do is provide a script for what the ad should say and select some background music that's going to accompany that ad. And then 24 to 48 hours later, you'll receive a notification that it's ready for review. Regarding the voiceover specifically, you can listen to a number of voiceover audio examples, the samples even, in all languages and regional accents that are available within the free voiceover tool Ad Studio. So there's lots in there for you to kind of have a listen to and pick what ones you like. The process for podcasts is very similar. But at the moment, that's only available in Ad Studio in the US. So it's not available in the UK yet, but I know that it's coming. We're launching in a number of other markets very, very soon.
Thank you very much. Our next question comes from Tiffany, who asks, in your opinion, what is the most common mistake when it comes to audio ad scripting? Lindsay, I'll throw that one to you. What do you think is the most common mistake?
Sounds good. I think you beautifully and artfully displayed this throughout the entirety of the presentation, because this really is a common one, but I think it's a natural impulse to want to fill the full runtime with as much messaging as possible. And I would say that we would naturally steer people away from following that impulse because it is not the best listener experience. And I think as a creative team, we're constantly sort of bringing ourselves back to what the listener experience will be for our work. How is it showing up in the world? And we certainly want to make sure that we're respecting that experience. And wall-to-wall VO and messaging is just, it's really hard to digest. It's hard to, have any takeaway when you just have steady language. And so we definitely revert back to conversational tone as you displayed, keeping things really short and sweet. And I'll definitely kick this one back over to you, Tyler, to sort of highlight some of those key messages in the presentation for what we would advise.
Yeah, I think one thing I would reiterate is a common mistake is an script that seems obviously like it was not read out loud. And that's the final form of an audio ad, is something to be heard out loud. They always suggest that in writing anyway, to read your script, read your words out loud. It's more crucial here. So I would say read your script out loud and, ask those 3 questions I outlined earlier, like, are there breaths? Do these words sound natural? That's what I suggest. Another question from Sarah in this case, who asks, for a 30-second script, how many words should I aim for? I think a good ballpark for this is about 2 words a second. That is, 60 words should be around the top of your maximum word count for a 30-second script. Again, you want it to breathe. As Lindsay was saying earlier, you want your script to breathe and have room for digestion. Again, I think people mistake the idea that they're going to have their ad read out loud and not read, by eyes. So I would say 2 words a second sounds good to me. So 60 words for a 30-second script. We have a 4th question. Aaron, I'll throw this one to you, from Jewel, who asks, if you have already crafted a voice ad, can you submit that directly to Spotify instead of having Spotify create a new ad?
Yeah, so for ads that run in music, you can submit your ad directly via Ad Studio without using our creative services if you prefer not to. For podcast ads, it's a little bit different. The options are either to, 1, use our audio creation tools to create a new ad, or 2, you can re-upload an ad that was created using our ad creation tools that have been approved in the past.
All right, thank you. Next question from Steph here. For disclaimers, terms, conditions apply, that sort of thing, where do you suggest is the best place to include this? I've seen both ways, where it's both the last thing, but in the ad, I think, and I'd be interested to hear your take on this, Lindsay, as well. I feel like if it's short enough, you want terms and conditions to be as short as possible. If it's short enough, I would try to get it before the CTA, or you say the CTA once, do terms and conditions, and then repeat the CTA, because according to our best practices, you don't want the last thing the listener to hear, about how terms and conditions apply and, only valid in 48 states or whatever. So any additional thoughts on that, Lindsay?
No, I think what you outlined is pretty perfect there. I would say, I think, certain verticals have certain rules that obviously have to be applied. I think, for pharma and for health, there are longer terms and conditions. And so usually, those unlock kind of longer ads. But I think following the best practices as best as possible, we put together, obviously, Tyler displayed this burger analogy for a reason. This is something that we use, the creative studio team uses, and we recommend Ad Studio users to also apply to their scripts, because it really does help all messaging resonate. So I would +1 what you said.
Yeah, and Tyler, just to add to that as well, because obviously we're talking to I'm in the UK. You guys are in the US. They have a lot of terms and conditions. I know in the US, we tend not to have as many in the UK. So what we've done in the past with some ads is if there's space on people's websites to host those T's and C's, we can highlight the website and say for terms and conditions, go to X, Y, Z. It can get a bit technical at times, but if you're ever stuck, just ask the question.
Another question here comes from Joseph, who writes, from a content perspective, what performs better, humorous ads, serious ads, or themed ads? For example, raps. I would say, I think as long as you're following the basic template that we've outlined today, there's room for experimentation within that, but ultimately, clarity, I think, is most important, being understood. And I think there's room to be humorous and understandable at the same time. Hopefully we've demonstrated that here today. Rapping, I would not suggest doing that for your first script. I mean, you have to be very careful too. Like, they have to think about who's going to voice that, who's going to rap. And I would not say that should be your first attempt at voicing a script. But any other thoughts from the room here, or should we move on to another question?
I love that question. I think that's really fun and creative. So I would say, I think to complement what Tyler has already addressed, staying true to your brand and the brand identity. If you have a humorous brand and being playful is sort of in the nature of that brand, and that's how you show up, then I think absolutely by extension, you should apply that tone to your audio advertising. I think going out on a limb, if it is somewhat, disingenuous and definitely doesn't apply in any other way to your brand, will be noticeable to the listeners. It's a very intimate, I would say, format audio is. It's within your ears. And so people can kind of pick up on things. And, if a voiceover artist is struggling with a script, it's going to come across. So you want to make sure that it's definitely natural and genuine.
I know
Aaron,
we're at Aaron, any other thoughts? I know we're at the 30-minute mark, so I want to be mindful of time, answer a couple more maybe. Let's see. So TD writes, is 30 seconds the standard ad length, or is the most recommended based on performance from advertisers across the board? I don't know if I won't mention data in particular, but I'll say I think shorter ads in general are preferred. I have reviewed 60-second ads that are just nonstop wall-to-wall copy, and those I think can become fatiguing to the ear if you're just listening to paragraph after paragraph of copy points for 60 seconds. So I recommend shorter the better, if possible. Any other thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I completely agree. I think when you start going down the realms of host reads, that's when it starts to get a little bit longer, and research on our website does show that the host read, when you're working with hosts, the longer the ads, the better. But you're completely spot on, Tyler. The shorter 30 seconds is definitely the preferred, maybe even shorter than.
Plus one, I think, especially on the music side. I think, the 30-second timestamp is a good rule to sort of obey by. And I think the entire presentation kind of doubles down on the fact that being concise and clear is much more effective.
I'll make this the last question, but I want to acknowledge Jack in the audience. Jack's question is not relevant to this one, but I'll cover that in the next webinar. The last question I think will come from Raphael, who writes, in contrast to script-based audio ads, have you seen success with more creative audio ads, if any, the kind of ads that cleverly paint a picture for listeners, like some radio ads? It's interesting. Yes. As far as creative studio content goes, yes, we see success with more creative ads. And that is because I think we have the unique experience and background to know what's going to be immersive and what is going to be annoying. For instance, you could cleverly paint a picture, I suppose, with the sounds of someone eating, and we know that that is not going to be pleasant to listen to. So there are watch outs we have in particular, And we do try to distinguish ourselves from radio ads, which are often more high energy, dynamic, loud, and kind of in your face. I still listen to the radio, but those ads seem to be a lot of like, I don't know, monster truck show energy, which we try to tone back for the more conversational, human, like we're just talking to a friend, that style of ad reading. So with that said, I'll let anyone else, any final thoughts, but I think this has been great. Any other thoughts on that question?
I mean, I think it's a great one. It's sort of similar to one of the previous questions, but I think a good rule to abide by is just because you can doesn't mean you should. And with creating audio ads, we have a bunch of different tools at our disposal. Obviously, we have the written word, we have the voiceover artist, delivering that performance. We have music, we have the ability to apply sound effects. And can you imagine if all of those were 10x at what they could be? It would be, as Tyler alluded to, a very distracting listener experience. So I think a subtle touch is probably, something to live by in the creative process. And, certainly you can embrace a little bit more of a creative spirit. And I think starting in the place where you sort of absorb the burger metaphor and apply it. And, once you feel comfortable, I think then you can start to sort of iterate on those choices. Aaron, do you want to add anything?
No, not really. Nailed it, guys.
Yeah, jumping off that, I think what we're trying to do is provide like the Lunchables template, and you have to work your way up to like crafting a real gourmet meal. So like once you can make the pizza with the cracker and tomato sauce, then maybe try the real thing after that. But that's our hope for you today. I think we can put up our final slide here, and I just want to thank everyone for joining once again and listening and viewing and asking questions. We will follow up shortly over email with more guidance about creating your next campaign on Spotify Ad Studio, as well as an on-demand recording of today's webinar for you to watch at your own leisure. So in the meantime, to create your next audio ad campaign on Ad Studio, just go to ads.spotify.com. How's that for a CTA? Well, that does it for me, folks. Thanks for listening, and I'll catch you next time. Bye-bye.